she asked politely. No drama, no arrogance, just a calm voice asking if she could take a turn at the rifle range. The colonel laughed, thinking it was a joke. The SEALs watching didn't take her seriously either. She looked too small, too young, too quiet. Then she picked up the rifle. Without hesitation, she adjusted the scope, checked the wind, and fired. One shot, then another, then 5 more. Faster, sharper, more precise than anyone expected. When the screen lit up, the entire group leaned in. Perfect grouping. Flawless time. Record shattered. The colonel didn't laugh again. He just stood there, frozen, watching the quiet girl reload. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story resonates with you, consider subscribing for more tales of extraordinary people who change everything with a single moment. The Nevada sun beats mercilessly on the Hawthorne Advanced Tactical Training Facility as Colonel Aldrich Blackwood leads a delegation of military officials across the compound. His pressed uniform and commanding presence draw all eyes except for those of Vesper Calloway, the silent 17-year-old trailing at the back of the group. Wearing an oversized field jacket that nearly swallows her slight frame, she observes everything with unnervingly calm eyes. The delegation moves with purpose, their polished shoes kicking up small clouds of dust as they traverse the compound. Blackwood points out various training stations with practiced precision, his voice carrying across the open space with authority. As you can see, gentlemen, we spare no expense when it comes to preparing our operators for any scenario they might encounter, Blackwood explains, gesturing toward a mock urban warfare center where teams practice building clearance. Every aspect of our facility is designed to push human performance to its absolute limits. Major Thorne, uncomfortably aware of his niece's presence, keeps glancing back at Vesper. He had no choice but to bring her after her guardian's sudden hospitalization. But a classified military facility was no place for a teenager, even one as unusually self-contained as Vesper. She'll be fine right here, sir, a junior officer had assured him earlier. She can wait in the visitor center. But Vesper had simply followed, silent as a shadow, and somehow no one had stopped her. It was as if she possessed some innate ability to avoid notice when she wished. Now she trailed the group, absorbing everything with those watchful eyes. And here we have our pride and joy, gentlemen, Blackwood announces as they reach the long-distance rifle range. SEAL Team 8 is currently breaking in our new targeting systems. The range stretches out before them, a vast expanse of carefully maintained terrain with targets set at increasing distances. Electronic monitoring stations capture every shot's data for later analysis. Several men in tactical gear lie prone at the firing positions, their disciplined bodies perfectly still as they work. Lieutenant Commander Reeve currently holds our facility record, Blackwood continues, gesturing to a barrel-chested man demonstrating shooting positions to junior officers. Consistent grouping at 1,200 yards. Pentagon's very interested in his techniques. The officials murmur appreciatively, asking technical questions about muzzle velocity and wind compensation. One general with more medals than space on his chest steps forward to examine the rifles up close. No one notices Vesper's eyes tracking the subtle movement of grass at the range's edge, measuring wind patterns invisible to the others. Our snipers train for a minimum of 3,000 hours before they're considered field-ready, Blackwood explains, pride evident in his voice. Even then, only about 20% make it through the advanced qualifications. What you're seeing here represents the absolute peak of human capability. As the demonstration concludes and the group prepares to move on, a soft voice breaks the momentum. Excuse me, sir. May I please try? The words hang in the hot desert air. Every head turns to find the source. Vesper, standing with perfect stillness, eyes fixed on Colonel Blackwood. The silence breaks with Blackwood's hearty laugh. Sweetheart, these are $30,000 precision instruments, not toys for children. Several SEALs exchange amused glances. One pantomimes holding a rifle too big for his body, earning chuckles from his teammates. Major Thorne steps toward Vesper, mortification evident on his face. Vesper, that's completely inappropriate. Apologize to the colonel. But Vesper doesn't move, doesn't react to the mockery. She simply waits with unnatural patience, her slender frame held with unexpected poise. I understand, sir, but if you'll permit me just 3 rounds, I won't damage your equipment. Blackwood's smile widens, seeing an opportunity for entertainment. Tell you what, little lady, Show these gentlemen what civilian marksmanship looks like. Reeve, give her the smallest rifle we've got. Lieutenant Commander Reeve approaches with a rifle, speaking loudly and slowly as if to a small child. This is the trigger. You hold it like this. Be careful, it has a kick. Phones emerge from pockets as the officials position themselves for what promises to be an amusing video. The SEALs form a loose semicircle, exchanging knowing looks. Vesper receives the rifle without comment, immediately checking its weight distribution with practiced movements. Her slender fingers move across the weapon with surprising familiarity, adjusting the stock against her shoulder in a motion that suggests years of experience rather than first-time curiosity. This is the Remington MSR with the modified stock, she says quietly. May I request the 168-grain Sierra Match King ammunition? The ballistic coefficient would be more appropriate for this distance. The smiles freeze. Reeve glances at Blackwood, confusion evident. The easy humor that had pervaded the group moments before evaporates like morning dew under the harsh desert sun. How do you know about ballistic coefficients? Asks the weapons specialist nearby, a man with salt and pepper hair and hands weathered by decades of gunsmithing. .462 at subsonic speeds, improving to .535 above the transonic range, Vesper recites without hesitation. She points to a nearly imperceptible modification on the scope. This has the enhanced elevation turret. Swedish design? The weapons specialist nods slowly, eyes narrowing. That modification isn't public knowledge. Major Thorne clears his throat. Vesper grew up overseas. Perhaps we should continue the tour. The vague explanation hangs in the air, clearly insufficient to explain the girl's knowledge. Colonel Blackwood studies her more carefully now, noticing the small calluses on her hands, the way she holds the rifle with unconscious familiarity. Set the target at 300 yards, he instructs the rangemaster. If I may, sir, Vesper interjects politely. I prefer maximum range. Blackwood's laugh returns, though with less confidence. Might as well shoot at the moon, sweetie. Fine. 200 yards. Let's not waste everyone's time. As the target resets, Vesper makes subtle adjustments no one else seems to notice, checking humidity with a small device from her pocket, noting barometric pressure. The SEALs have grown quiet, professional interest replacing amusement as they watch her preparation. She takes position with form that cannot be self-taught. Her breathing slows visibly, her body settling into perfect alignment with the rifle. Before firing, she whispers something in a language no one recognizes. The first shot cracks across the range. Absolute silence follows as everyone waits for the miss. The spotter, looking through high-powered optics, speaks with disbelief. Bullseye, dead center. Before anyone can react, Vesper fires again. Then again. 3 more shots follow, each faster than should be humanly possible. The electronic target board illuminates with the results. 6 shots, all within a cluster smaller than a dime. The timestamp flashes, showing she's beaten Reeve's record by 12.8 seconds. No one speaks as Vesper calmly returns the rifle to a stunned Reeve. Colonel Blackwood's voice has lost all trace of condescension. Who trained you? Major Thorne steps forward, resignation on his face. He pulls out his phone, brings up a classified document, and shows it to Blackwood alone. The colonel's face drains of color as he reads. You're Calloway's daughter? From Operation Nightshade? The name ripples through the group. A senior SEAL with silver at his temples snaps to attention immediately. The others, sensing the shift, follow suit though they don't understand why. My father was Commander Everin Calloway, Vesper confirms, the first emotional inflection entering her voice. He died 6 years ago. Saving his entire team, the senior SEAL adds quietly. I was there. Colonel Blackwood's demeanor transforms completely. Your father held the record here for 15 years. No one touched it until today. Major Thorne sighs heavily. Vesper has been in protective custody since the incident. Her father made powerful enemies during his career. She's not supposed to be here. Her identity is classified. As if on cue, security personnel rush onto the range, having finally realized who stands among them. They position themselves protectively around Vesper. I apologize for the subterfuge, Colonel, Vesper says, but I needed to see the facility as it truly operates, not as it would be presented to Commander Calloway's daughter. The senior SEAL approaches Vesper, pulling a worn challenge coin from his pocket. The metal gleams dully in the desert sun. "Your father gave me this when he qualified me," he says, his voice thick. "Said to give it to anyone who beat his time. I've carried it for 12 years. Never thought I'd find someone worthy." He places it in Vesper's hand with formal precision. She closes her fingers around it, the first visible emotion crossing her face. Colonel Blackwood calls the range to attention and delivers a formal salute. "Gentlemen, this is Commander Calloway's daughter, the man who wrote half our training protocols." Every man on the range stands at rigid attention for the quiet girl they'd dismissed moments earlier. In the command center afterward, Vesper stands before a wall of photographs. Her finger traces one showing a much younger man with her eyes teaching marksmanship to junior officers. "I didn't recognize you," Colonel Blackwood says, genuine regret in his voice. "He spoke of you often, called you his little ghost, said you moved so quietly he had to check if you were still in the room." A ghost of a smile touches Vesper's lips. "He taught me to walk silently before he taught me to talk. Said it was more important in his line of work." The SEALs have brought her to their memorial wall where CMDR Everin Calloway is inscribed in polished brass. "They never told us exactly how he died," says Lieutenant Commander Reeve, all previous mockery gone from his voice. "He was extracting an asset from Tehran," Vesper says quietly. "The building was rigged. He noticed the trigger mechanism others missed, had just enough time to push everyone else out." The hardened soldiers listen in respectful silence as Vesper shares details of the man they knew only as a legend. Colonel Blackwood clears his throat. "Miss Calloway, I'd like to formally offer you special access to train here whenever you wish, and I believe our weapons specialist would appreciate your input on the new rifle design." Major Thorne steps forward. "That's actually why we're here, Colonel. Vesper wasn't just tagging along today. She was sent to evaluate your program." Blackwood's eyebrows rise. "Evaluate? She's 17. Chronologically," Thorne agrees. "But she's been training with her father's methods since she could walk. The Pentagon believes she might be the only person who fully understands his integrated targeting system." Vesper turns from the memorial wall. "I'll need full access to the range data for the past 5 years, and I'd like to work with your top shooters directly." Colonel Blackwood escorts Vesper through the facility with a deference that would have been unimaginable hours earlier. The delegation of officials follows, their attention now fully captured by the quiet teenager who had shattered not just a record, but their preconceptions. "Your father helped design this wing," Blackwood explains as they enter a specialized training section. "Said we needed to simulate urban environments with greater accuracy. Cost us millions, but he was right." Vesper nods, studying the mock city block with analytical precision. "He built a smaller version in our backyard when I was 8. Made me run it blindfolded until I could navigate by sound alone." The officials exchange glances, beginning to understand that Vesper Calloway's upbringing had been anything but conventional. "Commander Calloway believed traditional training methods were insufficient," Major Thorne explains to the group. "He developed an integrated system that combined physical marksmanship with neurological conditioning." "Neurological conditioning?" one official asks. Vesper answers before Thorne can respond. "The human brain processes visual information at predictable rates. My father discovered how to accelerate those pathways through specialized training. Most snipers see, process, then shoot. He taught me to collapse those steps into a single neural response." The weapons specialist who had questioned her earlier steps forward. "Is that what you were doing out there? Your acquisition time between targets was physiologically impossible." "Not impossible," Vesper corrects gently. "Just unprecedented in your records." They reach a secure conference room where several high-ranking officers await. The atmosphere is tense with anticipation. A general with 4 stars on his shoulder stands as they enter. "Miss Calloway," he says, extending his hand. "Your father saved my life in Kandahar. It's an honor to finally meet you." Vesper accepts the handshake with surprising formality. "General Ryerson, my father spoke highly of you." The general gestures for everyone to sit. "I understand there was quite a demonstration at the range today." Colonel Blackwood clears his throat. "Sir, she broke Reeves' record by nearly 13 seconds with perfect grouping at maximum distance. First attempt, unfamiliar rifle." Ryerson nods, unsurprised. "Everin always said she was his masterpiece. We just didn't know if the stories were true." What stories? Asks one of the visiting officials. The general exchanges a look with Major Thorne, who nods slightly. Commander Calloway was developing a training program codenamed Nightshade, Ryerson explains. The objective was to create operators with unprecedented precision and speed. The program produced promising results but was deemed too intensive for standard implementation. Too intensive? Blackwood questions. The training had to begin in childhood, Thorne clarifies. Calloway believed the neural pathways needed to be established during critical development periods. When the ethics committee learned this, they shut down official program development. But he continued with his daughter, one official concludes, looking at Vesper with new understanding. With my consent, Vesper says firmly. Every step of the way. Ryerson leans forward. Miss Calloway, after your father's death, we lost access to his complete methodology. The documents he left were intentionally incomplete. We believe he was protecting you. He was, Vesper confirms. There are aspects of the training that can't be documented. They have to be demonstrated, experienced. Which is why you're here, the general concludes. To evaluate whether this facility is worthy of receiving your father's complete legacy. Vesper's gaze is steady. My father believed his methods could save lives by creating operators so precise that collateral damage would become virtually non-existent. But he also feared what might happen if his techniques were misapplied or taught incorrectly. The room falls silent as the implications sink in. This 17-year-old girl isn't just a prodigy. She's the custodian of a revolutionary combat system. What would you need from us? Colonel Blackwood asks. Complete autonomy, Vesper answers without hesitation. I select the candidates. I control the training environment. No interference, no matter how unorthodox my methods might appear. General Ryerson nods slowly. Those were your father's exact terms. We agreed then, and we agree now. As the meeting concludes, Vesper is escorted to quarters prepared for her extended stay. The room is Spartan but comfortable, with a single photograph on the bedside table, her father in desert camouflage, rifle in hand, a rare smile on his weathered face. We had that in the archives, Major Thorne explains. Thought you might like it. When Thorne leaves, Vesper sits on the edge of the bed, finally allowing her perfect composure to slip. She traces her father's face in the photograph with a trembling finger. I made it, Dad, she whispers. Just like you said I would. Dawn breaks over the facility as Vesper stands alone on the range. The desert air is cool before the sun rises fully, and the targets are barely visible in the gray light. She holds her father's personal rifle, removed from secure storage for the first time in 6 years. Colonel Blackwood approaches silently, surprised to find her already working. You're up early, he observes. My father believed the changing light at dawn was the most challenging condition for a marksman, she explains, not taking her eyes off the target field. He made me shoot 200 rounds every morning before breakfast. Blackwood watches as she fires a series of shots with mechanical precision. Your father was a hard man. He was preparing me, Vesper corrects. He knew he had enemies, knew they would come for me eventually. The colonel's expression darkens. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard never forgave him for the Tehran operation. We've intercepted chatter over the years suggesting they're still looking for his family. I know, Vesper says calmly. There have been 3 attempts to find me in the past 6 years. 2 of the teams never returned home. Blackwood stares at her, suddenly understanding the true extent of her training. You weren't just taught to shoot. My father taught me everything he knew, she confirms, loading fresh rounds into the magazine. How to see, how to move, how to survive. By mid-morning, a select group of operators has assembled at the range. Lieutenant Commander Reeves stands among them, his initial skepticism replaced by professional curiosity. These are our best, Colonel Blackwood tells Vesper, top 5% in their respective specialties. Vesper surveys the group with analytical precision. I'll work with them individually first, starting with Lieutenant Commander Reeve. The others are dismissed, leaving Reeves standing awkwardly before the teenager who had outshot him the day before. Your form is technically perfect, Vesper begins, surprising him with the compliment. But you're fighting your body's natural rhythms. Excuse me? You've been taught to shoot between heartbeats, correct? Standard sniper protocol. But your natural heart rate doesn't align with optimal firing cadence. You're constantly compensating, which costs you milliseconds. Reeves' expression shows disbelief. How could you possibly know my heart rate? I can see your carotid pulse, Vesper explains matter-of-factly. Your body is trying to establish a rhythm of 1.2 seconds between beats, but you're forcing it to conform to the standard 1.5-second protocol. She lifts her father's rifle. Watch my demonstration, then we'll adapt the technique to your physiology. What follows is a master class unlike anything Reeve has experienced in 15 years of special operations. Vesper doesn't just show him how to shoot, she rebuilds his understanding of his own body's relationship with the weapon. By late afternoon, Reeve's grouping has tightened by 30%, and his acquisition time between targets has decreased significantly. This is incredible, he admits as they review his results. Why isn't this standard training? Because most instructors don't understand it themselves, Vesper explains. They teach techniques without understanding the underlying principles. My father believed marksmanship was a holistic discipline, mind, body, weapon functioning as a single integrated system. Word spreads quickly through the facility. By the end of the week, senior instructors are quietly observing Vesper's sessions, taking notes, re-evaluating training protocols that had remained unchanged for decades. In the command center, General Ryerson reviews the data with Colonel Blackwood. These improvements are unprecedented, the general observes. Reeve's scores have jumped 15 percentile points in 5 days. It's not just the scores, Blackwood adds. The consistency is what's remarkable. No performance drops due to fatigue or stress. She's rewiring their fundamental approach. Ryerson nods thoughtfully. Calloway always said the program would revolutionize special operations. We thought he was exaggerating. Sir, there's something else, Blackwood says hesitantly. The security team has intercepted communications suggesting Iranian assets have identified this facility as a potential location for the Calloway heir. The general's expression hardens. Increase security protocols immediately. No one enters or leaves without triple verification. Already done, sir. But there's a complication. Miss Calloway insists on continuing her evaluation without interruption. Says her father prepared her for this eventuality. She's 17 years old, Colonel. Regardless of her abilities, we have a duty to protect her. With all due respect, sir, I'm not convinced she needs our protection. You haven't seen her full capabilities yet. The following morning, Vesper begins working with a new group, female operators specializing in covert insertion. The women initially show the same skepticism the men had displayed, but it dissipates quickly as Vesper demonstrates techniques specifically adapted to different body structures and strength profiles. The standard grip works against your natural wrist alignment, she explains to a sergeant with smaller hands. My father developed this modified position specifically for operators with similar physiological constraints. The sergeant tries the new grip and hits 3 consecutive bullseyes. That's incredible. Why wasn't this in our training? Because the men who wrote your manuals designed them for bodies like their own, Vesper answers simply. During a break, one of the women approaches Vesper privately. Is it true what they're saying? That you're Commander Calloway's daughter? Vesper nods. My brother served with him in Syria, the woman continues. Said he was the only officer who ever treated female operators as equals, not as exceptions to be tolerated. He believed capability transcended gender, Vesper confirms. That's why he taught me everything without limitation. As the training session concludes, Major Thorne appears at the edge of the range. His expression is grave as he motions for Vesper to join him. We've intercepted specific chatter, he informs her quietly. A team crossed the border 12 hours ago. Assets suggest they're carrying long-range anti-personnel equipment. Vesper receives this news with unnerving calm. Have you modified the security rotations as I suggested? Yes, but Colonel Blackwood wants to move you to a secure location until the threat is neutralized. That won't be necessary, Vesper replies. My father always said that the best defense is to become the hunter rather than the hunted. Thorne's expression shows concern. Vesper, these are trained operatives with years of experience. So am I, she says simply. Continue the training schedule as planned. I'll make the necessary preparations. That evening, as darkness falls over the facility, Vesper stands in her quarters checking specialized equipment from a case Major Thorne had reluctantly provided. The items are not standard military issue. Compact tools designed for stealth operations in hostile territory. A soft knock at her door reveals Lieutenant Commander Reeve. His expression is solemn. I heard about the threat, he says without preamble. My team has volunteered for protective detail. I appreciate the offer, Vesper replies, continuing her preparations. But this is something I need to handle personally. Reeve watches her methodical movements with growing understanding. They're not just after you because of who your father was, are they? They want what you know. The Nightshade protocols. Vesper looks up, meeting his gaze directly. My father died protecting his team and his country. I won't dishonor that sacrifice by hiding while others risk their lives for me. At least let us provide backup, Reeve insists. You don't have to face this alone. A ghost of a smile touches Vesper's lips. My father's last lesson was that sometimes, Lieutenant Commander, the quietest hunter is the most effective. She secures the final piece of equipment, a custom knife with a matte black blade. Tell Colonel Blackwood I'll be back before dawn, and make sure your men understand one thing very clearly. What's that? The perimeter security isn't to keep threats out, she says, her voice taking on her father's cadence. It's to make sure nothing escapes. Darkness blankets the Nevada desert as Vesper moves through the facility's outer perimeter. Her movements are fluid and deliberate, barely disturbing the air around her. The night vision equipment she wears is a prototype, lighter and more sensitive than standard military issue. It had been her father's final design, completed just weeks before his death. Security cameras track her progress from the command center, where Colonel Blackwood stands with arms crossed, watching the monitors intently. She moves like a ghost, observes the security chief. Thermal sensors barely register her presence. That's the Nightshade protocol in action, Major Thorne explains. Calloway developed techniques to minimize body heat signatures during movement. Most operators can maintain it for short bursts. She sustains it indefinitely. Blackwood shakes his head in disbelief. She's 17 years old. We should be protecting her, not watching her hunt trained assassins. With respect, sir, Lieutenant Commander Reeve interjects from his position by the door. I've worked with her for a week now. Age is irrelevant. She's the most capable operator I've ever encountered. The colonel's response is interrupted by movement on another monitor. 3 heat signatures appear at the far edge of the surveillance perimeter, moving with professional precision through the desert landscape. Contact, reports the security officer. 3 individuals approaching from the northeast quadrant. They're using terrain features for concealment, definitely professionals. Alert the quick reaction force, Blackwood orders immediately. Belay that, comes a voice from the doorway. General Ryerson enters the command center, his face grave. Miss Calloway requested no interference. This is her operation. Sir, with all due respect, Blackwood protests, we can't allow a civilian teenager to engage hostile operatives alone. Commander Calloway's final report before his death included a specific directive regarding his daughter, Ryerson replies, his tone making it clear this is not open for discussion. If and when she encountered the people hunting her, she was to be allowed to proceed without interference. He was explicit that intervention would only endanger her further. The room falls silent as all eyes return to the monitors. The 3 intruders have split up, using a standard triangulation approach toward the facility. What they don't realize is that Vesper is no longer moving toward the facility. She's moving toward them. She's hunting them, Reeve says quietly, a note of awe in his voice. On the primary monitor, Vesper's heat signature appears to fade almost completely as she adopts a prone position on an elevated ridgeline. She remains absolutely still, watching the lead intruder through specialized optics. What's she doing? Asks the security chief. She's not in firing position. She's reading them, Thorne explains. Calloway taught her to observe enemies before engaging. Movement patterns, equipment checks, communication habits. She's learning their operational signatures. For 20 tense minutes, Vesper remains motionless, gathering intelligence as the intruders advance. Then, without warning, she disappears completely from the thermal imaging. We've lost her, the security officer reports, alarm evident in his voice. No, Thorne corrects. She's implementing active countermeasures. She'll reappear when she chooses to. The command center falls silent, the tension palpable as all eyes remain fixed on the monitors tracking the 3 intruders. The lead operative moves with cautious precision toward what appears to be a blind spot in the perimeter security, unaware that the blind spot is intentional, a trap designed to funnel threats into predetermined engagement zones. Suddenly, the lead intruder freezes, then drops silently to the ground. No gunshot registers on the audio sensors. No flash appears on visual monitoring. The operative simply collapses, as if a switch has been turned off. What just happened? Colonel Blackwood demands. Before anyone can answer, the second intruder changes course abruptly, moving toward his fallen comrade. He too stops suddenly, hands reaching for his throat before he crumples to the desert floor. She's using tranquilizer rounds, Major Thorne explains. Custom loads her father developed, subsonic with minimal powder signature, virtually undetectable. The third intruder realizes something is wrong and adopts a defensive posture, back against a rock formation, weapon raised. His head swivels frantically, searching for threats in all directions except up, where Vesper clings to the rock face directly above him. Her descent is swift and controlled. The operative has no time to react before she administers an injection directly to the base of his skull. He collapses immediately, unconscious before he hits the ground. 3 targets neutralized, the security officer reports, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. Total engagement time, 4 minutes, 28 seconds. General Ryerson nods with grim satisfaction. Her father would be proud. Dispatch the retrieval team. I want those operatives in secure holding for interrogation when they regain consciousness. As the security team moves to secure the unconscious intruders, Vesper's voice comes through the communication system, calm and composed as ever. Be advised, the second target has a false tooth containing a cyanide capsule. It should be secured before he regains consciousness. Colonel Blackwood stares at the monitor in disbelief. How could she possibly know that? Dental anomaly visible during his brief communication with the others, Vesper explains, as if it were obvious. Standard procedure for their unit. I'm returning to base. Interrogation protocols should be prepared. An hour later, Vesper sits in the debriefing room, her field equipment cleaned and stowed. She shows no signs of adrenaline crash, no hint that she has just single-handedly neutralized 3 highly trained enemy operatives. She sips water calmly as Colonel Blackwood and General Ryerson enter. The intruders have been secured, Ryerson informs her. Initial identification confirms they're Quds Force operatives, specialized in assassination and asset recovery. They came equipped with extensive interrogation tools. It appears capture was their primary objective. Vesper nods. As expected, they want the complete Nightshade protocols. Which brings us to our current situation, Blackwood interjects. 3 enemy operatives on American soil means this is now an international incident. Homeland Security and the FBI will become involved. No, they won't, General Ryerson states flatly. This incident never happened. The operatives will be transferred to a secure facility and interrogated using standard protocols. No official record will exist. Vesper meets the general's gaze directly. My father prepared contingencies for this scenario. The operatives should be interrogated regarding their chain of command, not their mission objectives. We already know why they came. And how do you propose we handle the fact that they were neutralized by a teenage civilian? Blackwood asks, frustration evident in his voice. The official report will indicate they were apprehended by base security during a routine perimeter check, Ryerson answers. Miss Calloway's involvement remains classified at the highest level. The debriefing concludes with arrangements for increased security and accelerated implementation of Vesper's training program. As she prepares to leave, Colonel Blackwood asks the question that has been bothering him since the encounter. How did you know they were coming to this specific facility? Your location was supposed to be classified. Vesper's expression remains impassive. Because I wanted them to find me. I've been leaving breadcrumbs for their intelligence services to follow for the past 3 months. Both men stare at her in shock. You deliberately exposed yourself? Ryerson asks, incredulous. It was necessary, Vesper explains. These 3 were part of a larger unit tasked with locating and capturing me. By allowing this team to find me under controlled conditions, I've eliminated the immediate threat and created an opportunity to feed disinformation back through their channels. The realization dawns slowly on both officers' faces. This wasn't just a defensive action. It was part of a complex counterintelligence operation orchestrated by a 17-year-old girl. Your father taught you well, Ryerson says finally, a new respect in his voice. He taught me to think beyond the immediate engagement, Vesper replies. The best victories are the ones your enemy never realizes they've lost. 6 months later, the Hawthorne facility has transformed. What began as Vesper's evaluation has evolved into a revolutionary training program integrating the Nightshade protocols into specialized units. The observation room above the tactical course hums with quiet conversation as Colonel Blackwood stands with several government officials in suits, watching the training below. She's not just beating records now, Blackwood tells the officials. She's rewriting what we thought was possible. On the training floor, Vesper, now dressed in tactical gear with instructor insignia, leads a small group through advanced drills. Her quiet authority is evident in the focused attention of the operators around her. The Callaway method integrates breathing patterns with neurological timing, explains Blackwood. We thought it died with the commander. Turns out he was training his successor all along. One official checks his tablet. These results are unprecedented. The improvements in accuracy across your teams. 38% increase in first-round hit probability, Blackwood confirms. And that's just the beginning. On the floor below, Vesper corrects a female recruit's stance with gentle hands. The young woman tries again, hits the target perfectly, and breaks into a smile of genuine accomplishment. We're establishing a new unit, says another official. Specialized precision operations. We want her to train them. Blackwood watches as Vesper efficiently moves to the next recruit. She's already training the next generation. Look at them. They don't see a teenager anymore. They see their commander. Lieutenant Commander Reeve approaches the observation window, having been summoned by the colonel. You wanted to see me, sir? Reeve, the Joint Chiefs have approved the formation of Task Force Nightshade, specialized unit focusing on precision operations where minimal collateral damage is the absolute priority. I'm recommending you as field commander. Reeve's expression shows surprise. Sir, I'm honored, but Miss Callaway personally requested you, Blackwood adds. Said your adaptation to the protocols exceeded all projections. She'll serve as training director and mission consultant. Below, Vesper looks up, seemingly aware of the conversation despite the soundproof glass. She nods slightly, acknowledging the decision being conveyed. There's something else you should know, Blackwood continues. The 3 operatives we captured revealed under interrogation that they're not the only ones searching for Callaway's heir. There are others from multiple organizations, both foreign and domestic. Some want the Nightshade protocols. Others want to ensure they're never implemented. We'll protect her, sir, Reeve says firmly. I'm not concerned about protecting her anymore, Commander, Blackwood admits. I'm concerned about protecting those foolish enough to come after her. In a quiet moment between drills, Vesper reaches into her pocket and touches her father's challenge coin. She looks up, directly at the observation window as if she can see through the one-way glass, and nods slightly before returning to her students. Sometimes, Blackwood says softly, the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear most. As the officials depart, making plans for the new precision unit, Vesper stands at the firing line. She demonstrates one perfect shot, then steps back to let her students try. Breathe with your target, she instructs, her voice carrying the same quiet authority her father's once did. Feel its movement. Become part of its environment before you alter it forever. The recruits listen with rapt attention, absorbing not just techniques but a philosophy of precision that extends beyond marksmanship to every aspect of their operations. My father believed that true power comes from perfect control, Vesper continues, moving among her students with careful attention to their individual forms, not from how much force you exert, but from how precisely you apply it. In the months that follow, Task Force Nightshade transitions from training to operational status. Their first missions are classified at the highest levels, but rumors filter through intelligence channels about operations so precise that targets never knew they were compromised until it was too late. About extractions so clean they left no evidence of intervention. About a new kind of warfare where success is measured not in body counts, but in lives unchanged and collateral damage avoided. At the center of it all is Vesper Callaway, still speaking softly, still watching with those unnervingly calm eyes, still carrying her father's legacy forward. The quiet girl who shattered records now shapes the future of special operations, proving with every mission that sometimes the deadliest force isn't the loudest or the strongest, but the one patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to act. 1 year after her arrival at Hawthorne, Vesper stands alone on the range at dawn, just as she did that first morning. The desert air is cool, the targets barely visible in the gray light. She holds her father's personal rifle, a connection to the man who shaped her into something both more and less than an ordinary 17-year-old. Colonel Blackwood approaches, having expected to find her here. The new recruits arrived today, he says by way of greeting. 20 operators selected from every branch based on the criteria you established. Vesper nods, chambering around with practiced precision. They'll need to unlearn most of what they've been taught. They're the best we have. They will be, she corrects gently. When they understand what my father understood, that precision isn't just a skill, it's a responsibility. She fires a single round. The target, barely visible to Blackwood's eyes at this distance and in this light, shows a perfect center mass hit when they check it moments later. Your father would be proud, Blackwood says, meaning it. Vesper allows herself a small smile. He used to say that the measure of his success wouldn't be what he accomplished, but what he enabled others to accomplish after him. I think he'd be prouder of Task Force Nightshade than of any shot I've ever taken. As the sun rises fully over the facility, casting long shadows across the range, Vesper shoulders her father's rifle and turns toward the main building where her new recruits wait. She walks with quiet confidence, ready to pass on the legacy entrusted to her, one precise shot at a time.